Okay, it is the construction capstone on April 14th. Let me share my screen. So these are the updated and really final. I think this is it. I think this is all that's due, all that remains. And then we're just going to continue with LEED. You could see this. You could see my sheet, right?
Yep.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So today is the 14th. So what needs to happen? Let's do this for Monday. We should finish the logistics plans. That should be pretty easy. And the final division summary needs to be finished. Two teams have. Team 2, you haven't finished it. Brian, your name is on the submission, so just a heads up there. Team 1 and 3, I don't know if it's been updated. I know you've been fine-tuning your concrete numbers, so just make sure they're updated, and I will put up a new Dropbox for the division summary. All right, so I could compare them all at the end. Team 1 and 3, your prices are about within the $500,000, so that's not bad in the ballpark, I would say. Did you have a question, Brian, or something?
No, I'm good.
You're good. Okay, so just plug in the bottom half, and you obviously, Matt is here, needs to finish this concrete, which is really overdue now. So you need to get that number plugged into the summary along with the site concrete number that I gave you. So let's wrap those up by Monday. Wednesday, we should be able to complete the LEED. I'll hammer through maybe 2 more sections today and then the remaining part on Monday. And then Wednesday, we should be on course to finish the LEED portion. Then we go into our last week together, and that is submitting a draft of the whole document. And let's say Wednesday the 28th. We'll do small group review of presentation. All right, you're going to need to, you're going to have to make sure this is all properly coordinated for the presentation. So I think one of you will share the screen. Ideally, I don't think you need to jump back and forth between multiple people sharing screens. That doesn't seem like it should be necessary. So whoever controls the screen should be the manager of the process. That doesn't mean they do the most talking. It just means that they manage the presentation. And everybody should know when they're expected to speak on which slides. Okay, so we will discuss that as small groups on the 28th. Okay, any questions about what remains? All good? Okay, we're getting there. Hang in there. All right, let's look at LEED a little more. And let me just put up Frank's submission for the logistics plans. We looked at everybody else's. You can see that now, Frank?
Yep.
Okay. So I made some comments. There are more ways to get into the building than just 2, something this massive. There's a loading dock here, obviously. A building this massive would need more fire exits than that. So mark all of them. And what program are you dropping these shapes in on?
PowerPoint.
Can you affect the transparency of those shapes?
Yep.
That would look a lot better, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let me write that down.
I think that's for everybody. I mean, just a little bit. It's just I mean, it's not covering up the building, but I don't know. So you have a dumpster in front of the site entry here, so that looks problematic.
Yeah, actually, I do see that now.
Yeah.
Because that's where our lay down area would be, right there. But I guess we need to move that. If you go to the other,
Yeah.
if that's the entrance.
This remains an entrance, and all of these have to be labeled. The mobilization, pre-shell, post-shell, that all needs to be labeled. So this entry would remain, obviously, because it will become the entry. So yeah, at first I think dumpsters could be in the back without a problem. And I think the entry remains because it is a parking lot. It will be an entry. So I think this has to move. This fabrication area would have to move.
Okay,
Now, trailers in correct proportion and size. How many trailers do we have here? This office. That's
just one.
all right. Well, look, I mean, look up the size of a trailer relative to these parking spots. This is like 2.5 trailers or 3 trailers.
Okay,
So take a look at that. And this is, of course, these comments apply to everybody. Yeah, I think that's it. Cranes. So I said like the center of this crane is actually in the building right here. So I wouldn't do that. I would move. It might help to actually put that
yeah,
center point in.
I was trying to figure out the best way to kind of do it.
Yeah. So this is fine. This is fine. We talked about the entry having to be there, but I just think it's so it's a small building. It's going to be a mobile crane, so it's easy to move it around. You know, I would just keep it, you know, corner, corner, corner kind of thing.
Okay,
But yeah, if the crane moves a couple times, I wouldn't worry about it. And yeah, maybe like the 4 corners or something like that. Or I guess it depends where the material laydown is, actually. If the material's over here, you might get away with, you might get away with 3 corners, and then the material laydown could maybe stretch towards the building. Yeah, get rid of that guy. Materials, parking. Yellow safety point down here. Dumpster, toilet, office. Okay, yeah, so I would check out those comments, all right?
okay,
All right, and everybody
Sounds
else is asked to finish. Mobilization, pre-shell, post-shell. Yeah, so at this point, this site work is being finished here. And this is all temporary. And we'll talk a little bit more about this space here. Okay, all right, let me jump into LEED. Any questions about anything in general before I do this? All right, get ready to take some notes. This is a tough subject. It's a little crazy. Let me just close my window. It's tough. It's tough to absorb this. It took months of study for me to pass this test a long time ago. It's just dense. All right, but it's good to at least be familiar with it because you might come across it in your career. All right, so let me get through. We'll get through sustainable sites and water, and I won't keep any longer than necessary. And then we should be able to, let me just go see what page we're on, page 30. Water. Yeah, all right. So we should yeah, we'll get through these 2 and then Monday we'll just finish up. All right, sustainable sites. So this is where there could be some variation for you all as you have different sites. There might not actually be variation, but there could be in theory. Okay. Let me zoom in a little bit. All right, so prerequisites have to happen. Let me get that LEED chart back. All right, so here we are, sustainable sites, prerequisite. It's already checked off. it's required. It needs to happen. Okay. All right. And this prerequisite is construction activity pollution prevention. So it's an E&S plan. E&S, erosion and sedimentation control, right there. So civil engineers are required to do this by code, pretty much. So it just tells you where they're putting the silt fences to, keep all the dirt and runoff going into the neighboring properties and the roads. So putting the stone down at the beginning of the heavy stone near the entries, so it helps knock some of the dirt off the truck tires. That's what that's about. It's required by code, so that's a no-brainer. So here again, this prerequisite applies to schools and healthcare. So we don't care about it. It's not on our list. Site assessment. So we're going to be kind of, we'll say we're technically a new construction, but just out of interest, we'll also just see if our warehouses and distribution centers, if things vary. All right, so site assessment. Assess the site conditions before the design. All right, so this is very important, is assessing everything properly before. So complete and document a complete site survey or assessment that discusses topography, hydrology, climate, vegetation, soils, human use, human health effects. That's it. All right, so take that credit. That's 1 point for everybody. That's just something the design team would have to do. So you could imagine as we go through these, like who does it add more work to, and who does it add more, who does it add more fee to? So this one, for instance, this would be primarily civil engineers would look at all of that stuff. I mean, architects could too, but that's typically I would expect civil engineers. Just stop me if you have any questions or comments. All right, site development, protect or restore a habitat. So new construction, 1 or 2 points, conserve existing natural areas and restore damaged areas. Okay, preserve and protect from all development and construction activity, 40% of greenfield. None of us have that, right? There's an existing building for Team 2. Team 3 does not have that much space. So preserve and protect all development and construction activity from 40%. So if you're building on a new site and you preserve 40% of it, and there's no way you could accomplish that. I forget if Team 3 has an existing building. I think they might. But either way, you're not preserving 40% of that site, nor is Team 1. Team 1, you there? Who did this? Is this Ernesto? Is he here?
Ernesto did this. He's not. I don't think he's here.
All right. The one thing I was going to say just on the next credit, I think, is you might consider just picking this up and moving it over a little bit. And because some of these credits, if you preserve bigger spaces, it's a good thing. All right, so nobody's getting 40%, and you have to do something else. So I don't think we're getting this credit, in short. On-site restoration. Yeah, because of the end, I don't think we're getting this. Oh, wait. All right, but then there's an end up there, and then there's an or here. So this is where it gets kind of squirrely, the whole LEED thing. So if you can't restore your own site, you could just pay money. You could just pay 40 cents a square foot for your total site. That money is going to go to a land trust or conservation organization. So you could buy points essentially. I think that's a little squirrely. You're not actually fixing your site, but you're paying for, a good cause. I don't really understand that. But anyway, 40% is not going to happen. So nobody's getting this credit. Open space, new construction, create exterior open space that encourages interaction with the environment, social, passive, physical. Provide outdoor space greater or equal to 30% of the total site, including the building footprint. A minimum of 25% of that must be vegetated. Should be physically accepted. So this I think you could get. I think, especially if you move your building over, Trey, team one, I think you could capture that.
Yeah.
I don't think the team three could capture that. I don't see any more space on this site to be given, which is a good thing also, not obtaining bigger sites than you need. So I don't know if you get any credit for it, but I applaud it. And Frank, I think you could get 30% here as well, or team two, that would be right. This will all be free when it's done. So that's one nice big green space, right?
Yeah, a lot of that's gonna be able to move, get out of there.
Yeah. So I think 1 and 2 could capture that credit, not team 3. Okay. Yeah, that's what I see there. And that's 1 point. So I'd say those two teams could get that. All right, rainwater management. I do find these topics very interesting, all of them, but I just find it tedious. I find LEED very tedious. Rainwater management, 1 to 3 points. We want to reduce runoff. And here in Pennsylvania, this is one very big issue. When we get to the end and we talk about regional priority credits, when you put in the area code of your project, and they'll tell you what the most important credits are, and you could get extra credit for them if you do a particularly good job. And that was in response to like the first LEED version where they treated, they treated a warehouse in New Jersey the same way they treated an assisted living facility in Oklahoma. And people were like, that's ridiculous. But anyway, in our area, rain and water runoff are big issues in around greater Philadelphia. So this is definitely an important one for us. Reduce runoff, improve water quality. So what do we have to do? We have option 1, or path 2, or path 3, or option 2. I think, having glanced at this before, I think this could be accomplished here. 2 points, 95th percentile. So the details of this I don't know about. This is for civil engineers. In a manner best replicating natural site hydrology processes, manage site runoff for this 95th percentile of local rainfall using low impact development and green infrastructure. So I think, again, I don't know the details of this, but I think it's possible to achieve, would be my guess. I wouldn't be so ambitious to say 98th percentile. That sounds like a lot more. This version is for 0 lot line projects. So that's when you're in the city and you come right up to the sidewalk, not us. And I don't know what that is. All right, so I think you could take 2 points for this. And this belongs to the civil engineers, really. And perhaps landscape architects. All right. Heat island reduction, 2 points, 2 points. So we want to minimize the effect of microclimates and reduce the amount of heat that's produced around our building. So there are 2 ways to do this, 2 big ways especially. Well, it includes 3 ways, three ways. So high reflectance roof, that's a white roof. We could all do that. Vegetated roof, it's not in the documents. We're not going to talk about it really. And reducing the amount of site paving also helps. So going back to that earlier one, I think from Monday, we talked about keeping the amount of paving down to meet code and not exceeding it. Sometimes owners, sometimes an owner is required to put 50 parking spots in, but they want to be generous to their clients and say, oh, we'll put 70 spots in, and that's not a good thing. So no more parking than necessary, no more pavement, and all of this black roofs, black asphalt heats up the space around our project. So long story short, I think we could do this. I think if we had a white roof and we keep the paving to a minimum, I think we could capture these 2 points. Okay. And that's what this SRI is. That has to do with the reflectance index value, how much heat is sent back up after it bounces off a black roof as opposed to a white roof, which doesn't get nearly as hot. Parking under cover for another point. Okay. Light pollution reduction, 1 point. You could do that. All right. So increase night sky access, improve nighttime visibility, and reduce the consequences of development for wildlife and people. So they talk about the nocturnal habits of some animals and how they're getting all messed up because of all the light that we're polluting the world with. So when you see office buildings, there's some down in my town here, down near the bridge, that they have their lights on all night, the exterior lights on all night, shining up on, lighting up their facades. That's a bad habit. So lights off at night and lights face down, right? So that's our wall, and our light faces down and does not shoot light up into the night sky. So I think you could all get that point. Okay. And this is such a pain to prove all of this. That's what all this is about, like mounting heights. It's just it's so tedious and time consuming, and therefore adds so much money to a project. I mean, it's good stuff, and it's good to prove it. I think kind of like ADA, wheelchair accessibility, ideally this really just becomes more part of code and common practice, and not like this overly complex system. Okay, site master plan for schools only, doesn't apply to us. Tenant design and construction guidelines for core and shell projects, does not apply to us. Places of respite for healthcare. This is a nice one. Provide patients, staff, and visitors with the health benefits of the natural environment by creating outdoor places of respite on healthcare campuses. It's a nice idea. Direct exterior access, that's only healthcare. Joint use of facilities for schools. All right, so that's it for sites. Pretty straightforward, relatively speaking, at least on the surface. All right, water efficiency. Let's take a look at the, all right, so we just got through all of that. Now we have, now we just have a couple more. All right, let's keep going. Prerequisite, so needs to happen. Outdoor water use reduction. So no irrigation required or allowed, or reduced, I guess. So that they have these ways of creating baselines, and then you have to prove that you've reduced it by 30%. You could capture this one. So this is for landscape architects to pick, proper plants that aren't water hogs. This is often where it gets tricky. Athletic fields, playgrounds, golf courses are horrible. But you could capture that one. That would not be too hard. Indoor water use reduction. So again, there would be a baseline created, base calculations, and then with high performance fixtures, we want to reduce that by 20%. So here's your baseline. So we count all the toilets. The baseline is 1.6 gallons per flush, and everything is given faucets. So we'd have to figure out the baseline for all of our all of the plumbing, and then we would have to prove that we've brought in better fixtures and we're reducing it by 20%. I think you could do this. That shouldn't be too hard. I would assume. Commercial projects aren't huge water hogs. You know, residential, multifamily living, obviously we use a lot more water at home than we do at work. So, but I think we could do that. All right, so you could capture this. So they get into kitchen and appliances. Food steamers, dishwashers, crazy. Okay. Prerequisite. Why did we go to a prerequisite? Is this thing jumping back and forth? That's required. Now we're into a prerequisite. So this needs to happen, I gather. Is that what this says? Building level water met metering. Yes. All right. So whatever this is, it needs to happen. Tracking water consumption. Install permanent water meters. Okay. So that's not too hard. So that's prerequisite, needs to happen. All right. Outdoor water use reduction. So we're back outside now. New construction. Reduce water through one of the following options. No irrigation again. And they give you some time to establish the plan. So that we could do. I would just take this point. It's one or the other. I don't know. You get 2 points for no irrigation and you also get 2 for reduced, but I think we could capture that. All right. Indoor water use reduction. So the earlier ones, I guess those were prerequisites. Yeah, so they have a certain level of reduction needs to happen, and then you get more points for additional. So the outdoor, let's take those 2 points as we could just again go without the irrigation, and then inside we could get up to 6 points, but I think this is going to be more difficult. Further reduce water use. So this is the level that it gets reduced, and these are the additional points that you could capture. As our warehouse facility does not consume a lot of water, we don't have the opportunity to save a lot of water. You know, it's just toilets, sinks, and probably a kitchenette. We just don't have enough. All of this processing stuff is not there. I don't think we could capture. I mean, maybe you could take a point. If the other one was taken to 20, you could maybe capture a point here, but it's not a lot. The less water you use, the less opportunity you have to save it. Okay. Cooling towers. We do not have cooling towers on this. No. Don't have them. Water metering. This we could do. So take this point, water metering. So install permanent water meters for different subsystems. So indoor plumbing and fixtures, that would have a meter. I don't know if we have a boiler, if we have domestic hot water. So 2 of these things would get, or yeah, however we could break it out, at least 2 of these things would get their own metering system so we could track how much water is getting used. That's all. All right, energy and atmosphere. Let me just see how much we have to do. I might push on a little bit. No, I'm not going to push on. I'm going to read this before we do it. It's been a little while, and I need to gather my thoughts more. Let's do materials. Let me do materials. That's easy. Okay, I'm going to jump and do materials so we don't have as much to do on Monday. And I'll save energy and atmosphere and indoor quality. All right, so I'll jump over to materials. This is more friendly for architects and builders as opposed to the energy is really mechanical engineering kind of heavy stuff. All right, materials and resources. So we have two prerequisites. This is a big construction management one here. Yeah, you're going to need more dumpsters, actually. Yeah, let's do that. All right, for all our superintendents and site logistics plans, let's show more dumpsters. So 2 prerequisites and 5 credits. All right, so prerequisite, store and collect recyclables. That's easy. So provide dedicated areas for recycling. All right, so easy. Prerequisite. Oh, so you don't even get points for this one. Construction and demolition waste. And some of you are knocking down buildings. So this is actually going to be a really big chore for some. To reduce construction and demolition waste disposed of in landfills and incineration facilities by recovering, reusing, and recycling materials. So develop and implement a construction and demolition waste plan. You're lucky you're not doing that for this project, because this really is a big deal, and construction managers do have to deal with this one, definitely. Establish waste diversion goals. So when you knock down that building, where's everything going? All the steel would have to be separated out by identifying at least 5 materials that are targeted for diversion. So at least 5 different materials have to go not to a landfill. So steel, aluminum, concrete, things could be pulled out. Specify whether materials are separated or commingled. And at the end, provide a final report. So this is something you might very well come across in your professional life. That's a prerequisite. I thought they used to get credit for that, but now it's a given. Okay. So yeah, why don't you show more dumpsters? Show more small dumpsters rather than big, massive dumpsters. You're going to need, you're going to need 5 of them, maybe. I mean, obviously, if you knock down a building, you're not going to put the steel into a dumpster, but show a few dumpsters, okay? Just so that it reflects your understanding of this. All right, prerequisite, PBT source reduction, mercury. So mercury lives in fluorescent lights. And what are we doing here? Yeah, so we're not specifying any mercury related products. So prerequisite has to happen. All right, mercury is a bad thing. That's the take away from that one. All right, so building life cycle impact reduction, 1 to 5 points. Encourage adaptive reuse and optimize the environmental performance of products and materials. Demonstrate reduced environmental effects, early project decision making by reusing existing building source resources. We're not doing that. demonstrating a reduction in materials through life cycle assessment. All right, so we're not saving any buildings. We're not even going to go down that path. Renovate or abandon blighted buildings. I mean, it's a great thing to do, but we're not going down that path either. Building and material reuse. I don't see us going down that path. Whole building life cycle assessment. For new construction, conduct a life cycle assessment of the project structure and enclosure that demonstrates a 10% reduction compared to the reference building. That I think we could do. This would belong to the designers. I would do this. Whole building life cycle assessment. So the designers, again, have a kind of a baseline, and then they have to figure out different ways. This is crazy. See, select 3 different things to measure the impacts. The global warming potential. How that's so massive, such a massive thing. Depletion of the ozone layer. So somehow you have to prove that your building has achieved a 10% reduction in 3 of these things. It's crazy, but I would take those 3 points. It's doable, I would say. Okay. And that would belong to the designers. Okay. I don't remember that one. That might be new. Building product disclosure and optimization. I don't remember this one either. This must have changed some. Encourage the use of products and materials for which life cycle information is available. That's easy. And that have environmentally, economically, socially preferable life cycles. Easy enough. Reward project teams for selecting good materials. That's easy. Achieve 1 or more of the options below for a maximum of 2 points. Use at least 20 different permanently installed products sourced from at least 5 different manufacturers to meet the following. And then they start getting into these dense third-party standards. But we could do this. This is possible. 20 different products. I don't see any reason we wouldn't do that. I would take that point. Yeah, I would take that point. Okay, so that's building product disclosure and optimization. Raw materials. So this would be applied to steel, for instance. Extraction as well. I think we could take this. I'm not going to read this whole thing. 1 point. I think we could take both these points probably. In theory, I think 2 points could be captured for that. Again, that's all on the design team. This is crazy. This is all different from when I did it. This used to be a pretty easy category. Building product disclosure and up, so continues. The same continues. How is this different? Material ingredient. This is like getting down to like the chemical level of products. That's insane. I think we could take these points as well. I think theoretically it's possible. All right, so that's material ingredients. Does this reflect this properly? It does. Okay. All right, one more. PBT, source, more mercury. So avoid lights with a lot of mercury in them. We could do that. Take that credit as well. All right, that's it. Questions about LEED? Comments about LEED? Does anybody actually have any experience with this stuff? No experience? Might be coming. All right, so let's just talk about the deliverables one more time quickly, and I'll let you go. And I'll put you in your small groups if you have work to do. So Monday, let's wrap up the logistics plans and that final summary. Wednesday, we'll aim for completing LEED. And then final week, putting the document together for the review.